I don't want to frighten you, but it is unfortunately my job. It's time for the Friday Nightmare. This week's tale is a long one that I call The Lonely Death of UBERDICKMAN. Brent smiled, pleased with his tag. It read, UBERDICKMAN. The spray paint dripped down the side of the boxcar like butter melting on a hot biscuit. He was still learning the trade, but his bright purple masterpiece looked much better than the fading tags around it. As far as Brent knew, this was an abandoned train. He had never seen it move in the year he had been walking home from school this way. Cutting through the old neighborhood started as an escape. After he snapped Jenny Este's bra one too many times, her older sister began waiting for him when the last bell rang. She played lacrosse and left a black bruise on his chest with her stick that was visible for 2 weeks. Now, Brent was ecstatic he'd run this way. There were so many places to paint. Head still swimming from the heat and the paint fumes, he barely noticed the sound of scraping metal. Oblivious, he added a fat exclamation point to give UBERDICKMAN a sense of shouting and excitement. The scraping noise came again, louder and more forceful. A line of paint went off at an odd angle as he started. He looked up towards the rail line that headed home. Tracks which had formerly been arrow straight now bent at a sharp angle to the right. Brent blinked and passed an arm over his face, sure he was hallucinating. Sweat stung his eyes, making his vision blurry. When he focused again, the rail line was bent even further, stretching for yards past his right. Thoroughly weirded out, Brent dropped his paint into his pack and backed up. He cast his gaze left and saw with horror that the tracks this way were also moving past him. Now he was caught at the top of a semicircle. Brent didn't pause to figure out what was happening. He snatched up his pack and ran as fast as he could toward the part of the field that was still open. Behind him there was more scraping, and then the sound of the engine firing up. It let out a long honk of his horn. The boy kept his eyes focused straight ahead, refusing to look at the train as it tightened the circle around him like a boa constrictor. He was young and fast, and sure he could make the gap. After that, Jenny Este's sister would be a piece of cake by comparison. From his left, a dark metallic form slammed across the space just in front of him. It was the tracks, twisted and writhing like feelers searching for prey. Brent skidded to a halt and tried to dart right. The train continued to close the circle. He came to a halt, finally starting to cry. The train moved all around him, circling both left to right and the opposite direction, both at once. It was almost hypnotizing. Brent backed up, trying to put more distance between himself and the moving cars. Behind him was less than 10 feet of space. The train rolled on, closing tighter and tighter. He saw his magnificent tag, UBERDICKMAN, pass by him as if it was mocking him or calling his name. He looked down, trying to avoid the terrible machine, and watched as 2 tracks passed on either side of his feet. His last sensation was a hungry, rumbling vibration. As always, if you enjoyed that, please check out my collection of Stranger Words and the Rook Circle on Amazon or wherever dangerous books are sold. Until next time, good night.